All right, here we go. Today we have R&B royalty in the building. From the multi-platinum group New Edition, solo album multi-platinum, multiple solo albums multi-platinum, Johnny Gill. Welcome to Vlad TV.
Man, I done made it. I've done made it. I've made it. I'm with Vlad. Yeah, I made it. I was just telling you earlier. I was like, man, you've been around a long time.
Yeah.
This is a trip, man. It's like, I'm honored to be here.
Thank you, man. We're honored to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
First time here. I want to start in the very beginning. So you're born and raised in Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. Yeah. Born and raised.
Okay. And two-parent home.
Yeah.
Your dad is a Baptist minister.
Yeah.
And there's 4 boys?
4 boys. And my dad was a minister, so we grew up in sort of a strict household, and I didn't understand it as a kid growing up because my brothers, I have 3 older brothers, and those at the time, those were the only ones I knew about. So I do have a stepbrother, and found out I had a stepsister later on.
Dad had a few side kids?
Yeah, he was laying hands on a few.
Do some healing on some of the female.
Sexual healing was going on.
Okay, so what was DC like in the late 70s, early to mid 80s?
Man, DC, because I was a kid, it was fun times. You know, when you're a kid and growing up in, even though it was a sort of a strict household, it was family. It was always family. Mm-hmm. From my cousins to my aunties and my grandmother. And it was like a time where we would always, at some points, family was gathering over somebody's house on the weekends, cookouts. It was all this stuff. So that's all I knew. And, as a kid growing up, you have no worries in the world. You kind of like it's your siblings, your cousins, and you're arguing and fussing and fighting over stuff. And the next minute, you're playing and you're out in the yard playing. And we grew up in DC, most of my childhood in a house where we had our own backyard, and we were able to get out and have that level of freedom, which was, you look back at now, I didn't understand how fortunate and blessed we were at that time. But, when you look at where and how things are today and how you have to keep an eye on kids and the things that goes on now in society, it's like you go, wow, man, those were the good old days.
A lot is to be said about having a 2-parent home. A lot of times people try to downplay, my mom was the mom and dad. And, especially with boys, it's hard for a mom to raise boys properly. Yeah. They'll do their best. Yeah. But have a dad around, I came from a 2-parent home as well. Yeah. It goes a long way.
A long ways. Yeah. And that's what I believe brought more balance to me. Even when my mom and my dad ended up splitting up and going their separate ways, there was enough of dad and enough of mom in the home that, it came at a time where, at least as I got older, I understood what a good home felt like, what it meant, and what it looked like.
Right.
So as I grew older and my mom and dad separated, and I think out of all of the kids, I was the one that took it the hardest, and I think it impacted me more probably than my 3 brothers, because I was one of those kids. Because my dad, when he was there, my dad was a great father. It was, you go home, you come home from school, there's mini bikes, go-karts, there's bicycles. There was always something on the weekends. He was taking us, he had a little convertible, would take us for long rides, and then as we got older, he just for some reason decided one Christmas to buy us all instruments. And, I didn't have a clue that I had this connection with music and with instruments. All the instruments that I play, from guitar to drums to keyboards, all that stuff, taught myself.
Really?
And okay. I didn't, it took me a while to understand that that's not normal or natural for most people. But I had it was funny because I had at the time I didn't know what it was, but I just had this thing. I was interested in the instruments. And when you're growing up, I had 3 older brothers, and kids are kids. We fight, find ourselves at times, no, get off mine. No, you can't play with my toys. No, you can't get off. Don't touch my toys. So we had that kind of rivalry going at times. And then, so I found myself as a kid sometimes would play sick and not go to school because I was intrigued with their instruments as well as mine. And I wanted to figure out how it worked and nobody could understand why I knew how to play everybody's instruments. But when they were at schoolhouse, tinkling with their stuff and playing, and I didn't know what the word meant, what that was. And at the point of, just being intrigued with the instruments, I had no idea. I just knew I wanted to mess with everybody's stuff. So I knew they wouldn't allow me to do it sometimes when we were at home. So when they were at school, I was getting it in.